Yeah, welcome back to Politics and Land. Just an interesting title. Let's see, Dennis Sasaki was running this show for a long time, but he has traveled in his life, and he has designated Ricky Cassidy to take over for him. And so we have Ricky Cassidy here today. We're going to start a whole series by the same name with Ricky, and we're going to talk about politics and land. And Ricky had plenty of experience in both of those areas, and in fact, some great stories to tell. Yeah, Ricky, welcome to your show.
Thank you.
I wanted to have a moment with you and sort of start it off. And so I wanted to talk to you and to introduce you to people so that they know who you are. It begins with Kauai and the fact that your grandfather in the 19th century designed the Hawaiian flag. And from that point, I'm going to leave it to you to tell me, just list three of the top government agencies you've been with. Okay, just three.
Wow, cool. Let's see, I worked for CCFL in Washington as a unpaid staffer, and then I got paid meeting people coming into the DC office. I was in school up there. Left DC after graduating, came back, didn't work in a political office, but I got a job at the Heritage Foundation in their Asian Studies Center doing data. And Heritage was a lobbyist, and they moved lobbying up one level by being super proactive and feeding the legislatures data about issues that they cared about. And then since that time, I've just been a consultant to several government agencies. The best probably thing I did was HHFDC in 2014. The amount of federal rent assistance funds were down relative to what it could be if a study was done showing how high our rents are. And so I did it for all the islands, plus the counties, plus OHA, DHHL, a bunch of others. And it's a hard study to do because I used Craigslist data. There's much better out there, but at the time you grabbed what you could and it proved their point. So they were very grateful.
I think we're past the three now, right?
Yeah, that's three.
Sorry about that. So the second question is why? Why would you put so much time into working in and with government? I mean, you have some sort of special connection, maybe a death wish?
A respect, a love of policy. I mean, you can't talk about it unless you work in it. So, and then on top of that, my day job, I have two jobs. One is data research in housing and residential and commercial markets, and then the other is as a trustee, I manage 900 acres. So, all the bits and pieces led me to.
So, and you operate from Kauai, and I've always wondered what it is about Kauai that makes Kauai special. I remember I did work for one political official one time, and she said, they say they're friendly in Kauai, but it isn't really true. There's a lot of unfriendly also in Kauai. Was she right?
Yeah, they're very friendly to themselves. They know each other very well. Sometimes they get in big fights. They do accept outsiders to some extent, unless we start a fight.
Then it's mitts off.
Yeah. Then we hear about it.
And so we just finished a session, and one fellow who was kind of well familiar with how these things go said it was the worst session he'd ever seen. And I think it's very interesting because in a way, and see if you agree with me, in a way, the people on the neighbor islands or who operate from the neighbor islands, like and Dennis Sasaki for that matter, you have a greater awareness, a greater consciousness. You put more thought process into what in the world is going on in the square building, than say the average person in Oahu would put into that. And so, I think it's really an important question that I ask you. Is my friend right who said it was the worst session he'd seen in decades.
Yeah, well, it's the first session of Josh Green. It's the one where you had the three top dogs under attack for the way they performed their job. And for me, as I said before, it's more remarkable in what didn't happen than what did happen. And I think next, the last session threw a lot of money out the door at big things like DHHL and affordable housing. This year, I was hoping they would deal with the problems of throwing too much money all at one time. But that may not be a policy thing. It may be a thing down at the county level and the state bureaucracy level.
I was a little worried watching the mainland, because we here do watch the mainland. We watch Congress, such as it is worth watching, I suppose. That the Republican Party would come here and try to have influence in our legislature. They would come here and try to sell their bill of goods to our legislators, including both Republicans and Democrats, and try to get their agenda through on 2 points at least. One of them would be abortion, and the other would be guns. And there was some indication that actually happened. I don't know if you could say they succeeded in any particular way, but I wonder what your thoughts are about having carpetbaggers, carpetbagger lobbyists come here and try to sell a bill of goods from political organizations on the mainland and in Washington.
It's a tough sell, because anytime you parachute in here, even if you parachuted a generation or two ago, they know it, and you have to touch what they want. You have to touch, guns, for instance. I think they'll do real good, but I'm not sure about the abortion. That's a liberal. That's a woman's issue. But as a white Hawaiian, I mean, people look at me and they call me Haole, and I get it. And I've learned over life how to give people a handle on me, either by saying that I am part Hawaiian, which, of course, everybody says you don't look at, but then try and talk to them about what they care about. So at the end of the day, that's the tough part.
I think it's a treat to have a white Hawaiian on the show, whatever that is. But what is it, a white Hawaiian, and what is it in your case? I mean, your view of things in Hawaii would be different, wouldn't it?
Well, what happens is over time, the first white men come here, begat that generations of 50%. If they mingle, it decreases, and mine is down to 32nd. When I grew up, I couldn't go to Kamehameha because they had a quantum of 1/16. Kamehameha is an incredible group of actors and achievers on the other islands, particularly. And I went to Puno, and I respect one of the things I learned in living on Kauai is just how tight they are, how good they are at doing stuff, and how they have a common vision. So I'm a little bit, I have the Hawaiian vision because of the history of the family, but then my dad was from military and my mom was Viennese from Chicago. So
what a perfect match.
She was Mills and he was at Stanford, brought her over here. So I was born in 52, and I kind of watched the state transition from sugar to resort. Wow. Dad worked for AmFact and dragged me around. I was a Kaloi surfer that didn't really want any development. And then I went away and worked. And that was important because I got a sense of what the rest of the world was like and how come this place is special for the rest of the world. We all know what is special for the local people. And
but since 1952, or since you went to the mainland, whenever that was, things have changed in Hawaii. Things have changed in every island. Things have changed in the social structure, in the economy, and certainly they've changed in politics. So, can you give me, take the next 6 hours and give me what changes occur to you?
Diversity came in. The business class grew up. The arrival of citizenship, jet, and all that brought a lot of people here. And if you run it forward till today, what's always been the case is that we've got a high quality of life. People want to move here either temporarily or vacation or permanently. So going forward, what I see is some sort of a lot of discussion. What's too much and what's not enough. And the old idea of tourism is the goose that lays the golden egg has some truth up to a point. And the point that you pass is that it degrades itself and again, cheapens the experience. And definitely after COVID, it's if you lived here during COVID, your quality of life was mixed, but it was great. And now there's legitimate questions about how much we want to do and how to bring the benefits of tourism across the board to our community, strengthen the social safety net, and yet still be diverse and have, the benefits of living in America.
Talk about policy issues. There's a whole bunch of policy issues in that, for sure. Fiscal policy, social policy, all that. One thing you spoke of is the tourism issue and how much is too much. And I want to mention and get your reaction that there was a piece in the paper within the last couple of days indicating that we were just about up to where we were before COVID. We have recovered, or pretty much recovered. And that only means, that suggests a likelihood that we will now be having more than we had before COVID. And I wonder what your thoughts are about that, especially in light of the tumult around HTA in this session.
Well, actually, HTA took it on the neck because of the anti-tourism thing. And plus, the actors in the ledge, they all are tugging and pulling, to spend that money the way they see fit. In terms of land going forward, we just won't develop any more resorts of a significant weight. We will refurbish. Refurbishing and upgrading for me is a good idea because you appeal to a higher income tourist, and to my mind, that's a bigger bang for a buck. Paul Brubaker, who I love, does show show numbers, and numbers count, but so does quality. So it's not just wealthy tourists, it's also Akamai tourists and Akamai locals, because the one thing that I would count it successful in my life of seeing is more of the nexus where locals and tourists can interface and be happy. And that's not just on rail. You can see it on the buses on the neighbor islands. Kauai's magic. The guys on the road stop and let tourists walk in front of them. There's that they are friendly about. They are just, I live above cocoa palms and that's what I see. So part of it is bringing the benefits of tourism to the needs of the community and enriching the community and creating a virtuous circle.
A lot of people have said that. I've said that. I think the whole interaction would be so much more nutritious if they actually touched each other and met each other and spent time, with each other and had a schmooze, whatever the circumstances, so they could actually exchange ideas. But, the problem is that the tourist industry, I'll give you a short example. The tourist industry, the hotels and hospitality and all that, they want to keep those tourists bottled up. They want to keep them in a profit center, don't take my tourist away from my hotel, because when he's in my hotel, he's spending lots of money. I don't want him going out to Waiea and meeting with the teachers in the high school. So how do we fix that?
Well, we had a fix in homestay. It was a nice start, and then it kind of went corporate in a sense, and it got pushback from the locals. They didn't like it at grassroots, but the beauty of that was for me was that everyone who had a tourist in their house turned out to be a Grace Guslander of Cocoa Palms and fed that thing. There's a relationship. You see it in Europe, and but it was too much of too much. There wasn't enough. The owners didn't police the guys, and for me, it would have been much better if they had done some micro modeling, so that if I had a tourist house next to you, part of my taxes would go to you, or part of my taxes would fix the cul-de-sac, or part of whatever I made, so that it wasn't a zero-sum game.
And it wasn't just one-on-one. It wouldn't be one-on-one. The whole neighborhood would have a benefit over it. Yeah.
Well, you look at
comes to pass. So, are you satisfied with the responsiveness of the legislature to what people want? They always say, for example, every single member of the square building, they say, "Come and talk to me. Tell me what's on your mind. Tell me what your, pet peeve is. Tell me what your best initiative is, because I'm listening." And, over the years, I don't know how you feel about this. I think those are words that are generally empty. So query, how do we get them to be more interested in what we want?
They're right. They want you to talk. They're wrong that they can do something about it. There's a pyramid, and there's an old boy network, and there's a way of getting things done with some vested interests. I'll give you an example of rocks falling down a hillside and hitting somebody down below. In 49 states, that's an act of God. In Hawaii, it's gray. So anytime a rock comes down, hits somebody, a lawyer can sign up the family and take the landowner to court. And the landowner's in a box. He's held in court with no resolution. Neither of them want the judge to do a final decision. And so it's a payola. And realize the state of Hawaii, City and County of Honolulu, Hiko, KS, I mean, these are big landowners, and they could never get it past the trial lawyers group. So that's a small example of just too bad.
I'll give you another example that may be closer to home. At one point, Ricky, there were no OBGYNs in Kauai. Zero. What happened?
Well, I live next door to the first OBGYN. Ahu is his name, and she's wonderful. I walked into her house. She has every king of Hawaii on the walls, and I feel just wonderful. It's just neighborhoods can't make any money, and it's slightly better on Oahu, but they're still leaving. And so Zuckerberg put up a fund telling Kauaians, "You go to med school and come back, I'll give you some money." And that's a good, that's fair. That's addressing it. But the people that are there want to be there because of quality of life and the community. But after paying for med school, good luck.
Right. Well, Kamehameha had a program where they would send you to dental school on the mainland with the understanding that you come back and practice in the neighbor islands. I thought that was a wonderful idea. I'm not sure where that program is today. But let's go to our principal discussion, and that is politics and land. I remember not too long ago, because it's all in the personal perspective. There was a book called Land and Power. Remember that one? And
Yes.
That was really very much what we're talking about. There's a connection, right, isn't there, between land and power, politics and land? What is that connection? And I suppose I would add to that, what is that connection in an island state which has limited land?
Well, it's all about money. limited land, and it was about the groups of people on all the islands that formed to get a piece of land and develop it. So they were upgrading it, upvaluing it, and the people in control of that process and could honestly control it, by which I mean definitely could control it, they made money. And that model will always exist. The question going forward is how to make it equitable or more equitable. You still want somebody to make a bunch of money if they're taking a risk and working hard, but you don't want obscene profits. And you hear a reflection of this about realtors. Sometimes it's, hey, what do you guys do?
Really, it's a luscious opportunity for somebody like you to examine historically what has happened to make us like we are today. Where are we today? What's right, what's wrong, and whether our institutions are actually addressing these things, and where are we going, where we want to go, and how do we get there? I mean, it just goes on and on. There's so many possibilities and so many guests, and I know you can get them. The question is to have them speak to you candidly. What do you think, Ricky?
I am 70 years old, so I'll be nice to people. You have to be nice to people, but at the same time, at this age, you've got to put it in a box and have a channel out of it, or build a field of dreams and all of that. And that's the way it should be, to deepen resolve.
I truly love the comparison, field of dreams. Because that's what it is. It goes back to, not statehood, but way before statehood, the turn of the 20th century, actually, for me. And now you see all these things that have happened. And I'll tell you, I don't know if you would agree with this, but I'll tell you, in my time here, which started in 1965, I have not been all that happy with the progress of the state. I have not been all that happy with the business community, the hospitality industry, or the government. I think that we could have done better. And the question is, how do you roll that back and do better? I'd like to see you cover that.
Okay, that's a good one. You watched some instincts that failed, some that succeeded. Usually it starts with the grassroots. The guy that put the ban on plastics in Honolulu got fought by the mom and pop food trucks, and yet he prevailed and it worked, and we all kind of went, oh wow, of course. When at the start we're going, oh no, he's giving the mainland guys help, and there's lots of instances where epiphanies come when you put yourself into somebody else's shoes.
Yeah, I really like your idea about embracing the land, because we talk about it, but we don't do it. And we talk about it in terms of culture, but we should talk about it in terms of all of us, because, we all have a stake in the game.
And I know what Thompson said, we're all in the same, all of us are in the canoe. And
Yeah.
that's is beautiful, as beautiful as it gets. The other really curious one was, I once was with a trustee of Bishop Estate who was Chinese, Hung Wo, and he told me that when he was a trustee, he put Hawaiian into the curriculum at KS way back. And I'm half, but I just came back from the mainland. I was full of smart ass ideas. I said to him, oh, why would you put a dead language on that curriculum? And he said, my words, not him, you dumb howlies don't understand, but language is your culture. And he was so right, and I was so embarrassed. So that's testing ideas, finding them wrong, listening to other people. And then,
Well, and then let me finish your sentence for you, and then converting that to policy.
yeah. Well, yeah.
Policy that sticks in every session. Policy where, the people we elect do that kind of policy. I'm very interested in watching that, and I don't lobby or anything, but I'm interested in seeing it play out. And I imagine you watch it more carefully than I do. So going forward, that's the big mission. We have to get young people elected, and we have to change the system a little bit. You know, there are problems in the way the system works in the ledge. They were reflected this year. I mean, one was corruption, which resulted in some people going to jail already. I would never have expected that. And the other is bullying, which I would never have expected that either. So,
yeah,
those things do not help make good policy.
don't make good community.
Yeah. Yeah.
No trust.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't you give me your thought right now about what you want to do with this, and give the people your thought about what you want to do with this. And I think they met you already here today. Well, they know you from before. You were on Mark Schwab's show not too long ago. But I tell them what you're thinking and what you would like to take away.
I think there's such benefit in having conversation and a back and forth, and then you try and choose quality people with intelligence and compassion, and just let it go where good people want to go. Just take them. So I'd love to get some of my father's generation. I'd love to get some of the new generation. I'd love to get people that disagree with me, but do it really well. Yeah, that's where I'd go. Land and politics plus, living here forever.
Yeah, well, a great perspective and great possibilities. And who knows, but, I suggest you'll have an effect on whoever watches, because you bring a lot to the table. You're akamai about these things, and you're focused on the right approach. So I'm so happy to see you in our lineup, Ricky. I welcome you as a host in ThinkTech, and I look forward to you're doing the shows and changing our world in that way.
Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks to Dennis too, who's pretty funny about things, but he's one of the smartest I know.
Well, one thing he suggested you. That's pretty smart, don't you think?
It worked. It worked.
It worked.
For a surveyor, that's all that counts. It measured.
Ricky Cassiday, a Renaissance person, and a reflection of so much from Hawaii. What do they say? The best part of Hawaii. Thank you so much, Ricky. Looking forward.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Aloha.
My aloha.
Thank you so much for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. If you like what we do, please like us and click the subscribe button on YouTube and the follow button on Vimeo. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and donate to us at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.